I get married in April. We got engaged at Christmas, but in January, my dad was given 5 months max after being taken off chemo for it not working. I will preface this by saying I never wanted the big white wedding. I am not a fan of being the center stage, etc. My best friend, 26F, of 14 plus years, is the polar opposite of me. My partner and I have been super busy with work, so I've allowed my parents to plan the wedding. His parents are out the country on hollybobs, but have had input. My dad wanted a bigger celebration, as this will be the last chance he gets to celebrate. I am obviously heartbroken and want to give him exactly what he wants. I chose my bridesmaids, and my partner chose his best man, groomsman. My best friend is one of my bridesmaids, and my niece is my other. My bestie from day one of being asked has been finding dresses, not a problem. I've said all along, I just want them to feel comfortable to wear what they want. I am paying. Some of the dresses were questionable, but I honestly didn't have the heart to tell her. Men's suits were all chosen and everyone was happy. A little side note here. My parents have never been a fan of my bestie. They think she's an attention seeker and a bit of a tart. They accepted my choice because they know I love her to bits. Last week when we went to see my bestie, she had a baby recently, so love going to see Bubba. She was saying, I think her partner, let's call him Paul is going to propose at your wedding, and getting all excited. She kept saying how she wanted it to be a perfect proposal, and we have the perfect venue. That is true. The venue is stunning. On the way home from seeing her, I was talking to my partner and said that I didn't want him to propose at the wedding, as we were already celebrating a wedding and my beautiful daddy, and didn't want to take away from that. I reached out and tried to explain this to Bestie. Her reply, if you are going to be a bridezilla, I don't want to be part of your rushed wedding. If you can't stand other people getting attention, you're really pathetic and need to get over yourself. Here I will input. Partner and I have been together 4 years. Her and partner have been together 1 year. Not that this is any sort of competition. But here's where I may be the bridezilla a whole. My response. I'm truly sorry you feel like I've been a bridezilla a whole. I've tried to be accommodating and as free-willed as possible. You've had your choice of dress, shoes, hair, makeup, accessories, which were all paid for by me, and we have accommodated bringing your baby, which of course we would as we love you. You know I don't like major attention, but this is my family, my friends, and they're coming to our wedding. If you're so desperate for the attention on you, perhaps it's best you're not there. I'm sorry that this hasn't working out. I'm truly heartbroken. But this day needs to be perfect for my daddy. Her last response, I didn't respond. Your dad's gonna die. He won't even be here to give a shit. I don't mind losing her over this, but I'm heartbroken and now thinking I may have been a bridezilla. Please help Potato Kings, Queens, and everyone in between. Update. Thank you to everyone that gave comments, feedback, support, and advice. And as I'm sure you all expected, we have an update. He was going to leave her, not propose. So my partner and I reached out to him, asked him to meet in a neutral place. We chose the park near to his house. He agreed to meet us alone. Side note, we live about 2 hours apart since I moved out of my parents and we moved to a different city. I travel most weekends to see my parents. I showed him the messages from the screenshots shown in my last post, and he was raging. Paul was so angry at what had been said, then turned to us and said, I actually wanted to leave her, but was waiting until after the wedding as to not ruin the day for you and your dad. We had a long chat. Paul and my partner have a lot in common, and he's always been lush to the both of us. We drove him home and left. Driving the 2 hours home, I felt relieved. I've never felt so stress-free. I had no one to try and please. And who needs an egg-sucking bridesmaid anyway? Paul rang when we got home. They've split up. She tried to deny the messages, but didn't delete them from her phone, so he knew it was true. He told her he was repulsed and was planning on leaving after she'd been unkind to his mom, also ill. Paul wants an amicable split with baby, so we'll possibly getting lawyers involved. My daddy is over the moon. He's heartbroken that I've lost pretty much my only friend, but he's so glad she's gone. He's surviving day to day, and we are giving him the best we possibly can. We took him suit shopping, and He looks absolutely incredible. My mom hasn't got her dress yet, but we are having a special girls' day out soon. Dresses, spa day, and just overall love. Major updates: 1. Passwords with vendors. 2. Paul is still coming, either alone or with a friend or someone else. He deserves a break. 3. Paul's going to tell her parents, who are massively religious and massively strict and will not tolerate bullies. Story 2. My husband is 43 and I'm 31. We've been married for 7 years and have a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. My husband left our children alone and he refuses to admit to it or tell me where he was. I'm furious, enraged, and my husband keeps telling me I'm making a big deal about nothing. This just happened this weekend. I am on the board of directors for a local nonprofit organization. I had to attend an event for that organization this past Saturday, and I was gone for most of the day. My husband was supposed to be home with our kids. I texted him a few times and he responded. When I called around midday, he didn't respond, but that's not very unusual. Shortly after that, I got a call from my mom. She said my son had just called her, and when she asked him what he and his sister were doing, he said they were both watching TV. When she asked where their dad was, he said his dad wasn't there. My mom asked him several other questions, and from my son's responses, she believed he was telling the truth, and that my husband wasn't there, and that there was no adult there at all. She said he didn't seem scared to be alone or worries about where his dad was at. He just called her to chat. He has a tablet designed for children with pre-programmed contacts that he can call. It's only a few people, just family members. I left the event immediately and began texting and calling my husband repeatedly. He didn't respond to my first several attempts. It took him about 10 minutes, I was halfway home at that point, to respond. I was so confused, so worried, really mad, and I asked him where he was. He said he was at home. I told him our son had just told his grandmother that he was home alone with his baby sister, watching TV about 15 minutes ago. My husband denied it, and I told him I was too upset to talk and drive. When I got home, I checked on the kids right away, and they were both fine. I asked my husband again, where was he? He said he was home the entire time. He doesn't know what our son was talking about, but he must have just been confused since he had gone to the basement to do some laundry. I ran down to the basement. It was the same load of laundry I'd thrown in the dryer the night before. He didn't do any laundry when I was gone. I asked my husband why my son would be confused about whether his dad was home or not. Where in our home would he have gone? And for how long for our son to think his dad wasn't home? That doesn't make sense with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. You wouldn't leave them unattended that long. Why was he nowhere to be found when my mom asked my son to go check certain areas of the house? I begged my husband to just admit it, to stop treating me like an idiot, and to stop accusing our son of lying. Just tell me the truth, because being lied to right to my face is so incredibly maddening. He insists he was home, but he can't come up with any believable story of where he was at or what he was doing during that time. The way he answers me when I ask him about this and demand truthful answers is so dismissive. When I tell him, "You left our children alone," he quickly says, "No, I didn't, so anyway." He says I'm overreacting and letting our son's imagination drive me crazy. I am convinced he was gone. We don't have a Ring camera, but at least one of our neighbors does. I'm so upset about this that I'm tempted to ask our neighbor for the Ring footage. I had to go out to my car and scream and cry because I got so upset. Of course, I didn't want my kids to see my reaction. I can't put into words how upset I am about the fact that I know he must have really left them alone, but have no proof and am being treated like I'm just a paranoid nutcase of a woman by him. Update. Last weekend, my husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone while I was gone, and then refused to admit it or provide a plausible explanation. Since then, we had many arguments about it. I've been living in a constant state of anger and frustration. I didn't want to fight about it anymore, but I couldn't help it, and I kept bringing it up again and again. I couldn't lay low and pretend to get over it while I waited for him to do it again and catch him in whatever was going on. I also knew that demanding he tell me the truth wasn't going to get me anywhere, since he'd been refusing to talk and deflecting for days. All it was doing was making me enraged and feel like I was about to have a brain aneurysm. I told him to hand me his phone so I could check his location at the time. He refused. He said he wouldn't do it and that it was a violation of his privacy. He won't be treated that way and refuses to give in to my delusions. You think I enjoy being in a situation where I have to beg my husband to show me his phone so I can see where he was at? I hate it. I don't want to live that way. I told him it's simple. If he was really at home the entire time, just prove it. Why wouldn't he want to clear this whole thing up? I got so mad that he wouldn't turn over his phone that I told him I was going to the neighbors to get their doorbell footage. At first he was like, fine, go do it. He didn't think I actually would. He knows I don't like to air drama to others, so he probably figured I'd just swallow all of this crap he's been giving me. Luckily, I was totally being driven by anger at this point, so nothing was going to stop me from going to the neighbors. When I actually started to go out the door, he tried to stop me and followed me out the door. I felt pure anger rushing through my veins, nothing else. The neighbor, who I've probably said less than 10 words to in the entire time we've lived here, told me he'd send me the footage. I went home, told my husband that the neighbor didn't have the footage from that day anymore, and told him I just needed to go to the store and cool off. So I put the kids in the car and went and parked somewhere while I waited for the neighbor to send me the footage. I have the neighbor's number now too, and he told me if I need any more footage, he will be happy to give it to me. The video shows a blue car that I don't recognize show up and park in our driveway. A blonde woman gets out of the car and goes towards my house. She walks on the outside of our garage toward the gate leading to our backyard. The gate is too far back and out of the way to be seen on the doorbell footage. She and her car was there for 23 minutes. Imagine that. The car leaves right around the time that my husband called me to say he was home and had been home the entire time, as I was rushing home in a panic and calling him on repeat. One of two possibilities as to where they went. She either came in through the side door of the house, which does provide direct access to the basement, or, and what I think is more likely, is that they were in the backmost area of our yard, which is a gated pool area. Immediately behind our house is a grass lawn. Then you step down a few steps and we have a patio, and then there is a fully gated area where the pool is. It's not like you think of when you picture a gated pool. It's a full 6-foot wood fence all the way around, plus even taller landscaping for added privacy. You can't see into the area at all unless you're inside. I think it's more likely that they were back there because my son said his dad's keys were gone, and we keep that gate locked with a key. The pool is closed for winter, but there is one small building back there, sort of like a shed we converted into a changing area. And there's a covered patio with furniture. I'm convinced that's where they were, so technically he was home, but in an area totally removed from the house, and where he couldn't see or hear the kids if something happened. I asked him how he could explain this. What were they doing? I obviously don't need him to tell me what they were doing, but for some reason, I still had hope that he'd finally be honest. He wasn't contrite. He showed no remorse. He was just like, yeah, she was here, but I obviously never left. Who is she? How long has this been going on? And if he's going to be such a disgusting, despicable excuse of a man, then why couldn't he at least have found any other time and any other lie or excuse other than when he was home alone with our kids? I told him, I know this has happened before, and I demanded to know how many times he's done this when he's been home alone with the kids. He swears this is the only time, but he still doesn't have the balls to confess to what they were doing. I don't believe him that this was the only time, FYI. I still have so many questions, and I still feel like my heart is beating 200 times a minute. My blood pressure's through the roof. I've cried a lot, sobbed, begged for somebody to help me, yelled, screamed, ordered a bunch of books about divorce and custody. And you know what? The next day after our multiple explosive fights, him putting his hands on me and me seeing the evidence, he acted like everything was totally normal and like none of that stuff ever happened. I woke up still seething, exhausted, broken, and he's acting like everything is totally normal. He said he was ordering breakfast to be delivered from our favorite breakfast place. He asked if I wanted to go to the store together later and try this new recipe for chili tonight. What? Why would Kay want to do any of these things with you now? Absolutely no acknowledgement of anything he's done or what's transpired between us in the past few days. He deserved an Oscar for how well he was able to act like none of that happened, completely comfortable and non-fazed. I know that it's a waste of my energy, but I just desperately want him to admit the full truth of what he did that day and any other day with this woman. I want to hear it from him. It won't change whatever he's done, but he could at least have the respect and decency to be honest, now that he's been caught. That's a ridiculous thought though, right? How foolish of me to expect this man to show decency and honesty now. If he was a decent and honest man, then he wouldn't have had a strange woman over to our house and been out of sight from our kids for 23 minutes. His continued denial and refusal to admit to anything other than the bare minimum. His attitude, like I'm somehow being controlling or infringing on his rights by asking for information, that's almost more hurtful than him cheating on me. Story 3. Obviously high school sweethearts, and I thought we were well on our way to being married and have a family together. In fact, we were engaged when all the shit went down, and at that time, I was the happiest guy in the world. One day out of the blue, without any warning or even a small suspicion on my part, she tells me that she had to talk to me and that I wasn't going to like what she had to say, but she had to say it. She spent about 15 minutes crying and telling me that she would love me forever, but that she felt like we had gotten together too young and she needed to be single for a while. Of course, this confused the shit out of me. What does that mean? So I made her explain to me what she meant. She gave me a whole list of bullshit things about not wanting to have to be responsible for my happiness. Wanted to go places without having to worry about me and other shit that just made me more confused. I told her that she could do any of that right there and right then, and we didn't have to break up for it. I offered to give her space, whatever she needed. Nothing was moving her, so it finally dawned on me to ask her, was this really about wanting to date and see other people? She denied that there was anybody she wanted to date or see, but ultimately, yes, she thought it was what she wanted to do. As you can imagine, I was broken by this. She tried to tell me she loved me again, and I just told her to keep it to her fucking self. She then said she wanted to know if I was going to be okay, and I told her that was no longer any of her concern, and walked out the door. She tried calling me and sent several texts, but I just deleted them without reading and deleted her on everything. I would love to tell you I was all manly and uncaring about it, but I sunk into a deep, deep depression. That was 3 months ago, and I have not seen or spoken to her since. That is until yesterday. As I pull into the driveway of my house, she gets out of a car that is parked across the street and starts walking towards me. I don't really look at her and start walking in the house because I have nothing to say to her, but she yells out my name, so I stop and just shoot back with, "What?" I whip around, and there she stands, and she is very obviously pregnant. I don't know what to say to her, so I just stand there. She said she's sorry for sneak attacking me, but she had been trying to get a hold of me for quite some time, and she knew I had her blocked, but that she had to talk with me. I'm not happy to see her. I'm really not happy to see the woman I loved my entire life pregnant with some other guy's kid. And I just tell her that we really don't have anything to talk about. And I turn to go inside. She yells out that the baby was mine, which of course stops me dead in my tracks. Long story short, she said she is 4 months pregnant, and that she was about 1 month pregnant at the time. She broke up with me, but did not know it. She said she didn't really even know or suspect she was pregnant till the 2nd month, when she missed her period but had conflicting home pregnancy tests. However, she went to the clinic to get tested there, and that it confirmed she was pregnant. She said she spent the next month trying to convince herself to have an abortion, but just could not do it. She begged me to let her come in and talk with me. I won't lie, I was probably crueler than I should have been. I told her that I didn't believe that it was mine, that she wanted to go fuck other guys, and that she got knocked up by some guy who wanted nothing to do with her, so she came running to me hoping I would pretend to be the kid's daddy. She, of course, started crying, and she said that she deserved that, but she said that she never even went out with anyone else. I'll try and summarize this as it's already very long. She said that she never went out with anyone else, she never got the chance, and that she was totally honest, that she had no one in mind. She said that she believes that being pregnant made her hormonal, and that it made her very impulsive, and that the sudden urge to break up with me was just that, a sudden urge. She hadn't been thinking about it. She asked me if I read any of her texts at all. I told her I did not, and she said if I would have read them the next day, I would have seen her telling me that she wanted to talk to take it back and knew that breaking up was wrong. Here's where I stand right now after hours and hours of talking with her. My heart was shattered. There's a part of me that just wants so badly to throw away all of my doubts and fears and just take her in and be both a husband and a father. But as much as I want this, I will not be a father to a child that I did not create with a woman who left me to fuck other men. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be a stepdad or something, but I will not do this with someone who knowingly broke my heart. I have demanded a paternity test. Neither of us have a fucking clue how to do this. But she is going to ask her OBGYN at her next meeting. I don't know if I have to wait till the baby's born or what, but this is something I have to have done for my own peace of mind. She said she is fine with this, as there is zero doubt in her mind that it is mine, as she claims to have never been with anyone else. So here are my questions. Let's assume the child is mine. Where do I go from here? She gave me a letter she wrote when we were separated, and it is dated about a month ago, and in it she writes about deep regret about hurting me, how much she loved me, how this was the biggest mistake of her life. How do I believe her that she hasn't been with anyone else since she left me? Even if the child is mine, that doesn't mean she didn't have sex with someone else. I know it may make me an asshole, but if that is the case, I don't want her back. Obviously, if the child is not mine, this all becomes a non-issue, because that is an absolute no for me, beyond a shadow of a doubt. What do I do with all of this hurt and anger? I want to love my child, assuming it's mine. And as long as everything she says is true, I think I want to love her again as well. But I've had 3 months of sleepless nights, fits of rage and soul-crushing depression. She told me she wants to do whatever it takes to make this work for us. She has offered to pay for couples counseling and is offering any type of transparency I want. Right now, my head is spinning. 4 months ago, I would have loved to be a father and make this woman my wife. Now, I still have those emotions. However, they are not intermixed with pain, hurt. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit. There are so many responses that I can't really get to them all, so I kind of want to make one addition here in hopes of answering most of this. I read what you all were saying, and it was loud and clear that I have issues. I was completely ignorant about hormonal issues. However, I have read up a little on it today, and I see where this is very possible. Please understand, when I wrote this, all I had just gotten done speaking with her, and my emotions were very raw, and I was very confused. I love her with all of my heart. I know that. I knew that last night. The reason I can't answer all of your questions is because I am on my way to talk with her. I can't let this go. I've been given a second chance with her, and this is all I want. I am still going to want a paternity test just for my own peace of mind. I hope she can understand that, even though I know this is going to hurt her feelings. I think I'm just going to have to take a leap of faith and trust that everything she said about it, being her hormones and how she never really wanted this. I'm sorry to anyone I offended because I came across as a grade A douchebag. Update. Hello, everybody. I wanted to stop back by and give everyone a little bit of an update on what has transpired since this weekend. After talking with you guys and reading, I found out that pregnant hormones can really mess with some people's minds. I went to the apartment where she is staying with a friend, and the friend was nice enough to leave so she and I could have a long, emotional talk. I'll spare you the lengths and depths of our conversation, but needless to say, it was long, painful, and filled with crying, mostly by me shamefully. I totally broke down. Any and all pretense of being strong and trying to not let anything bother me was just washed away in a matter of moments by her. She makes me very vulnerable, and while I don't like that a lot, I will say that once I got it all off of my chest, I felt like $1,000,000. She was very patient, very kind, and very loving. This was the girl who I have known all of these years. From her end, she stated she never went out with anyone else, did have 2 guys who knew we were broken up try and ask her out, but she told the first one that she wasn't ready, and by the time the second one asked her, she knew she was pregnant. After hours of talking, we ended up falling into each other's arms, and by this time, her roommate came back, because she had to go to bed to go to work. So she came home with me to continue talking. We ended up making love all weekend, which at first I thought I would be grossed out, to be honest with you, because I've never even thought about pregnant sex before. I would not have even considered it if I thought for 1 second the kid wasn't mine. That, I guess, is the uptake to all of this. I now believe her 100%, and I'll tell you why. She is insisting that we do a paternity test. If she wasn't sure, she would probably not want to go through with it, but she says that she has never been with anyone else, and I believe her. So yesterday she had a pre-existing OBGYN appointment, and she set it up so I could go with her. Here is what is so cool. Her doctor's a dude who can't be more than 35 or so, and he was the coolest motherfucker I've ever talked to. I mean, in real life, if I met this guy away from there, he would be a bro of the first order. We went and did the exam, and I got to see the baby on the scope. Man, at home that I'm going to be a daddy at that point. After he did the exam with her, he asked her if now would be a good time for the talk, and she said yes. I had no idea what was going on, but she said she wanted him to talk with me and that it was her idea. She left, and the doctor and I had a chat. He said my girlfriend had spoken with him about everything over a month ago, and while he wouldn't talk about her medical condition exactly, he wanted me to know the facts about female hormones and how it can impact women. Like I said, coolest guy ever. He broke it down so I could understand it. He also said that she had spoken to him yesterday about paternity testing, and they were going to set this up for next week. He said for both of our peace of minds, we should just go ahead and do it. He also spoke for a few men with me about how I was feeling and even shared a story about how he and his wife nearly separated over a pregnancy-related issue. I left that day filled 100% confident that this is a relationship I want to work to have. I honestly now think she just had a crisis of bent-up frustration, hormones, and emotions, and she didn't even know why she was having them. I just got done moving her stuff back to my house about an hour ago. When she gets off work tonight, we are going to embark on our journey to make this work. I am not going to rush things, because either of us may have built up emotions that we don't even know yet. But I have a ring already, and if all goes well for a month or two, I am going to ask her to marry me. I know both of our families would prefer us to be married if we are going to have a child. Which brings me to my next point. Now I get to tell my parents they are going to be grandparents, which also leads me to have to tell them we are back together. This should be fun. Anyway, thank you all so very much for helping set me straight. I wanted to believe her, but did not believe the hormone thing. Thanks to some of your stories, I now know the truth.